Did you know that one of the greatest geniuses in history, Richard Feynman, once said that if you cannot explain something simply, you do not truly understand it? Think about that for a moment. In a world where students are always trying to memorize long answers, difficult definitions, and complicated formulas, here comes a genius telling us, "No, you are doing it wrong. You do not need to memorize more. You need to understand more. And that understanding begins when you can explain your lesson like you are teaching a small child." Amazing, isn't it? And that is exactly why, today, you and I are going to explore something powerful, something life-changing, something that will turn you into a confident, clear, and smart learner. Today, we are going to explore the Feynman Technique. The Feynman Technique is not just a study method, it is a way of thinking, it is a way of learning, and it is a way of transforming your brain from confused to crystal clear. By the end of this video, you will understand why so many top students, top teachers, and top thinkers use this method to learn anything. Yes, anything, faster and better. But before we start, I want you to imagine something. Imagine there is a door in front of you. Behind that door is the version of yourself who understands every lesson easily, who remembers everything clearly, who never gets stuck, never gets confused, and never panics before an exam. That version of you exists, and the key to open that door is the Feynman Technique. Now let me tell you a story. A few years ago, a young boy named James, one of my American students, came to me with a problem. He said, "Teacher, I study so much, but I don't understand anything deeply. I can memorize, but when the exam comes, everything disappears from my mind." Does that sound familiar? Many students face the same problem. They study for hours. They read the same page again and again. They highlight everything. They underline everything. They watch videos. They listen. They try. But they still feel confused. Their mind feels heavy. Their confidence becomes weak. And slowly, they start believing, "Maybe I am not smart enough." But that is not true. The problem is not you. The problem is your method. And that is why Feynman's method is magical. When I taught James the Feynman Technique, he said something beautiful. "Teacher, learning is finally making sense to me. And my dear students, after today, learning will make sense to you too." Let us begin. Chapter 1. The Moment of Clarity. The first step of the Feynman Technique is simple, yet powerful. Choose what you want to learn. But don't let the simplicity fool you. This is not the ordinary, casual choosing that students do every day. This is choosing with intention. Choosing with precision. Choosing with complete clarity. Because clarity is where learning truly begins. Most students sit down to study without a clear plan. They open a chapter but don't decide which part they want to master. They scan through headings without understanding what they are looking for. They read one paragraph, then get distracted, then jump to another. They move from one topic to the next like travelers wandering through a city without a map. They may be walking, but they are not reaching anywhere. Their mind becomes confused, scattered, and tired before it even starts working. And then they wonder why studying feels so difficult. But the Feynman Technique changes everything. It makes you stop. It makes you breathe. It makes you point your finger at one thing and say with confidence, This is exactly what I want to understand today." That moment, when you select your topic with clarity, is the moment your brain wakes up. It knows what to focus on. It knows what to ignore. It knows the mission. When I explained this to James, he looked at me with surprise. "That's all? Just choose?" he asked. And I smiled. Because yes, that is all, but done with focus. When you choose your topic clearly, it becomes your mountain, your challenge, your target. And once the mountain is chosen, we climb together, step by step, without fear and without confusion. Choosing might look like a small action, but it is the foundation of deep understanding. Without clarity, your brain stays foggy. With clarity, your brain becomes sharp, awake, and ready for learning. When your mind knows exactly what to do, it becomes powerful. It becomes energized. It becomes disciplined. That is when the magic starts. The magic of real learning, real thinking, and real progress. So before you begin any lesson, pause and ask yourself, what exactly do I want to learn right now? The moment you can answer that question, you have already taken the first and most important step of the Feynman Technique. Chapter 2. Explain it like a child. This is the heart of the Feynman Technique, the step where the real transformation begins. This is the part that makes learning simple, makes understanding clear, and makes memory strong. The rule is easy to say but powerful to practice. Take the topic you chose and explain it as if you are teaching a small child. Not a teenager, not an adult. A small child. Someone who does not know difficult words, complicated sentences, or heavy definitions. But why a child? Because children demand simplicity. They do not understand long academic explanations. They do not care about technical vocabulary. They want to understand things in the easiest, clearest way possible. When you try to explain something to a child, you are forced to remove everything unnecessary. You are forced to break a big idea into small pieces. You are forced to think deeply, not just repeat what you memorized. And in that moment, something beautiful happens. You finally understand the topic yourself. I remember when I first gave this task to James, I told him, "Explain photosynthesis to me like you are teaching a 10-year-old kid." At first, he froze. He scratched his head and said slowly, "Photosynthesis is the process where plants convert light energy." Before he could continue, I stopped him gently. "No big words," I said. "A child will not understand convert, or process, or light energy. Explain it like a kid." He looked confused for a moment. He thought. He tried again. And then, suddenly, the idea became simple in his mind. He smiled and said, "Plants make their own food using sunlight." That was it. That was the moment of true understanding. The complicated idea became simple. The confusion disappeared. Most students hide behind big words because they think it makes them look smart. They repeat textbook definitions without even understanding what they are saying. But repeating is not understanding. Memorizing is not mastery. And big words do not make you intelligent. In fact, the real sign of intelligence is simplicity. The smartest people in the world explain things so clearly that even a child can understand them. My dear students, remember this forever. If you cannot explain something simply, it means your brain is still confused. And confusion is dangerous. It grows silently. It hides beneath memorized sentences. It hides beneath difficult vocabulary. It appears during exams. It appears when you try to solve a problem. That is why the Feynman Technique makes you face your confusion early, so you can clear it before it becomes a problem. Explain it like a child. That is how you learn deeply. That is how you learn beautifully. That is how you become truly smart. Chapter 3. Find the gaps. Once you sit down and try to explain a topic simply, something very interesting and very important will happen. You will get stuck. You will pause. You will hesitate. You will forget a step, a detail, or a meaning. You will feel something is missing. And in that moment, you will discover the hidden truth of learning. There are gaps in your understanding. These gaps are the holes, the missing pieces, the unclear parts of the lesson that you didn't notice before. And my dear students, this moment is not a failure. This moment is beautiful. This is where real learning begins. The Feynman Technique teaches us something powerful. Confusion is not the end. Confusion is the beginning. Most students fear confusion. They think being confused means they are weak, slow, or not smart enough. But that is wrong. Confusion is a signal. Confusion is your brain's way of saying, "Hey, something here needs attention." When you ignore confusion, it grows. But when you face it, it disappears. I remember when I asked James to explain a math concept using simple words. He started confidently, but halfway through, he stopped. His face tightened. He frowned and said, "Teacher, I don't know what comes next." I looked at him and smiled. "Good," I said. "Now you know exactly where your gap is." That moment changed how he viewed studying. Instead of feeling embarrassed, he felt relieved. When you know your gap, you know exactly what to fix. Most students never find their gaps. They read lessons quickly. They memorize lines. They copy definitions. They think everything makes sense until exam day arrives. Then suddenly, one strange question appears, and their mind becomes blank. Panic rises. Fear takes over. And they realize they never truly understood the topic. They only memorized it. But with the Feynman Technique, you discover your gaps early, calmly, and without pressure. It is like turning on a light in a dark room. You can finally see the places that need cleaning, fixing, or strengthening. You catch the confusion before it catches you. You meet your weakness before it becomes a problem. You face the uncertainty before it becomes fear. So every time you get stuck, don't feel disappointed. Smile. Because it means your brain is growing. It means you have found the exact place where understanding needs to go deeper. It means you are becoming stronger, sharper, clearer. The gap is not a weakness. The gap is your guide. The gap shows you the path forward. Chapter 4. Return to the book. Fix the gaps. Now comes the next part of the Feynman Technique, the part that turns discovery into real understanding. Once you have found a gap in your knowledge, you do not ignore it. You do not push it aside. You do not hope it will magically disappear. Instead, you go back. You go back to your book. You go back to your class notes. You go back to your teacher's explanations. You go back to any resource that can help you understand. And then, with focus and care, you fill that gap. But here is the key. You do not fill it by memorizing words or definitions. You fill it by understanding. True, deep, meaningful understanding. This is the difference between knowing something superficially and knowing it completely. I remember James when he first started using this method. Before, he would read pages of definitions and try to memorize every single sentence. He thought memorization meant learning. But in reality, his mind was like a bucket with holes. It could not hold the water. After discovering the Feynman Technique, everything changed. When James encountered a gap, he paused. He asked himself, "Where did I stop understanding? What part don't I fully get?" And then he went directly to that part, in his book or notes. He read carefully, slowly, and purposefully. He highlighted only the points that mattered. He rewrote explanations in his own words, and almost immediately, studying became easier. His mind stopped wandering. His focus sharpened. His confidence began to rise. Learning no longer felt like a burden. It felt like an adventure. This step is critical because it turns the process into a cycle of improvement. You fix one gap, and suddenly another becomes visible. You address that one too, and clarity spreads. Slowly, steadily, the confusion begins to melt away. What remains is understanding that is clear, clean, and simple. Nothing is left half-baked. Nothing is left vague. Your knowledge becomes solid, like a foundation built carefully, brick by brick. The beauty of this step is that it shows the Feynman technique is not about memorization. It does not ask you to recite definitions or repeat sentences. It asks you to think, to question, to process, and to truly grasp the meaning. And when you understand something deeply, remembering it becomes effortless. You do not have to struggle to recall facts or formulas. They stay in your mind naturally. Understanding replaces struggle, clarity replaces confusion, and confidence replaces fear. So remember, my students, every gap is an opportunity. Every question you cannot answer is a chance to grow. Go back, fix the gap, and watch your mind transform. Step by step, explanation by explanation, you are building knowledge that lasts. This is the true power of the Feynman technique. Chapter 5. Simplify again. Shine again. The final step of the Feynman technique is one of the most beautiful moments in learning. After you have discovered your gaps and worked carefully to fill them, it is time to return to your explanation once more. But this time, the goal is not just to explain. The goal is to simplify, clarify, and shine. You take the topic you struggled with before, and now, with your new understanding, you explain it even more simply. You remove unnecessary words. You remove extra complexity. You remove anything that does not make the core idea crystal clear. At this point, your explanation becomes smooth, precise, and elegant. The topic that once seemed complicated now feels effortless to describe. I remember asking James to try this step after he had filled the gaps in his knowledge. At first, he looked nervous, wondering if he could do it. But as soon as he started, something remarkable happened. He didn't hesitate. He didn't fumble. He didn't pause uncertainly for words. His explanation flowed naturally, like a river moving over stones. Every idea followed another perfectly. Every word had a purpose. And I could see the transformation, not just in his explanation, but in his eyes. His confidence had grown from inside, silently, steadily, and powerfully. This is the magic of simplification. Confidence does not come from pretending. It does not come from memorizing long sentences or repeating someone else's words. True confidence is born when your understanding is so deep that it becomes part of you. When your mind is clear, your words become smooth. When your knowledge is strong, your voice becomes steady. And when your explanation is simple, everyone who listens can understand, even a child. That is the real mark of mastery. When you simplify and explain again, something else happens too. Ownership. You no longer fear the topic. You no longer run away from it. You no longer rely on textbooks or notes for every answer. Instead, you own it. You can describe it, teach it, and use it in real situations. It becomes a part of your thinking. You can recall it effortlessly. You can connect it with other knowledge. And this is where true learning becomes permanent. So remember, my students, never stop at just understanding. Go further. Simplify. Shine. Polish your explanation until it is clean and clear. That is how mastery is built. That is how confidence grows naturally. And that is how knowledge becomes yours forever. When you can explain something simply, you are no longer just a learner. You are a master in the making. Chapter 6. Why the Feynman Technique Works. My dear students, the Feynman Technique works not because it is complicated or magical, but because it is natural. It works because it follows the way your brain is designed to learn and understand. Our minds are not built for memorizing long lists of facts or repeating words without meaning. Our brains are built for clarity, simplicity, and storytelling. Your mind loves to see connections. It loves when ideas make sense. And most of all, your brain thrives on understanding, not memorization. When learning becomes meaningful, it sticks. When learning becomes mechanical, it slips away. Memorizing is like writing words on water. They disappear as soon as you stop thinking about them. You can repeat them perfectly in the short term, but soon they vanish. Understanding, on the other hand, is like carving knowledge on stone. Once you truly understand, it becomes permanent. It stays in your mind. It becomes part of the way you think, the way you solve problems, and the way you see the world. Understanding gives you control over knowledge. Memorization only borrows knowledge temporarily. When you explain something like a child, you force your mind to transform complicated ideas into simple, clear truths. Complex formulas, long definitions, confusing processes, they all shrink into simple sentences. You break them into steps that make sense. And simple truths are unforgettable. Once you can explain a concept in simple words, you are no longer relying on notes or textbooks. You have internalized it. You have made it your own. This is why the Feynman Technique is so powerful. It turns learning into ownership. This is also why top scientists, top students, and top thinkers rely on this method. Not because they are born smart, but because they want to grow smarter. They train their minds to think deeply, to question assumptions, and to make knowledge their own. The technique forces your brain to engage with ideas actively, to explore gaps in understanding, and to build clarity from confusion. It turns passive learning into active mastery. And here is a truth I want you to remember always. Clarity is confidence. When you understand a topic clearly, your words become confident. Your writing becomes clear. Your thinking becomes sharp. Your decisions become wiser. And your actions, whether in exams, presentations, or life, become fearless. Understanding is not just knowledge, it is power. It is freedom. It is the path to becoming the student, the thinker, and the person you aspire to be. So embrace the Feynman Technique, my students. Let it guide you. Let it train your mind. And remember, when your understanding is clear, your life naturally becomes confident. Clarity is the secret that transforms learning into mastery. Chapter 7. How you can use it daily. My dear students, now that you understand the Feynman Technique, you might be wondering, how do I use this every day? How do I make it a part of my learning? The answer is simpler than you think. The Feynman Technique is not complicated, and it does not require hours of extra work. In fact, it is designed to make your learning faster, smarter, and more effective. Let me guide you step by step so you can apply it every day. The first step is to choose a topic. Before you start studying, decide exactly what you want to learn or understand. It could be a math formula, a science concept, a piece of history, or even a grammar rule. The key is to be specific. When your mind knows exactly what it is focusing on, it becomes sharper and more alert. Clarity at this stage sets the foundation for everything else. The second step is to explain it simply. Take the topic you chose and try to teach it as if you are explaining it to a child. Use simple words. Break complex ideas into small, understandable parts. Do not hide behind difficult vocabulary. If you can explain it simply, you are forcing your brain to process the information deeply. The third step is to notice the gaps. While explaining, you will naturally encounter points where you hesitate, forget, or feel confused. These gaps are not weaknesses. They are opportunities. They show exactly what your brain does not fully understand yet. The fourth step is to fix the gaps. Go back to your notes, your textbook, or your teacher's explanation. Focus on understanding the parts you missed, not memorizing them. Slowly fill in the gaps until your understanding is complete. Each gap you fix makes your knowledge stronger, clearer, and more confident. The fifth and final step is to explain it again. After filling the gaps, teach the topic one more time, using simple words and clear sentences. This repetition ensures that your understanding is solid and permanent. Your knowledge becomes yours, and recalling it becomes effortless. You can use the Feynman technique for anything: science, math, history, English, vocabulary, even life problems or personal goals. If you can explain a problem simply, you can solve it clearly. This is the power of clarity. Use this method when you study, when you revise, when you prepare for exams, or when you want to master a difficult subject. Use it whenever you feel confused, whenever you want to learn fast, or whenever you want to grow. Remember, this technique is not just for geniuses. It is for you. It is for every student who wants to grow, improve, and truly understand. It is a simple, practical, and powerful way to turn confusion into clarity, struggle into mastery, and learning into a habit that stays with you for life. Chapter 8. James's Transformation. Now let me return to James's story, my dear students, because it perfectly illustrates the power of the Feynman technique in action. Before he learned this method, James struggled deeply with self-doubt. He believed he was slow, that he could never understand complicated concepts, and that intelligence was something other people were born with. But he was not. Every time he studied, he felt overwhelmed. Every exam seemed like a mountain too steep to climb. He believed he would always struggle, that no matter how hard he tried, he could never keep up with his classmates. This mindset weighed heavily on him, and it affected his focus, his confidence, and even his desire to learn. But everything began to change when he started practicing the Feynman technique. For the first time, James approached learning with clarity, simplicity, and intention. Step by step, he chose a topic, tried to explain it in his own words, discovered the gaps in his understanding, and then worked to fill them. At first, progress was slow, and he still stumbled over some concepts, but he continued faithfully, and within a month, something remarkable happened. One day, he looked at me and said, "Teacher, I am starting to feel intelligent." That statement touched me deeply, because it was not just about grades or scores, it was about belief. James had shifted his mindset. He had discovered that intelligence is not fixed or inherited. It is something that can be built, cultivated, and strengthened. It grows brick by brick, step by step, explanation by explanation. The transformation did not stop there. As James 20 Ewart practiced the technique, his understanding became clearer, and his grades began to improve naturally. Concepts he once found confusing became simple and manageable. The stress he carried before exams reduced, and the fear that had weighed him down disappeared. He gained confidence not only in the classroom, but also in himself. This confidence radiated in his actions. He began answering questions without hesitation, participating actively in discussions, and even helping other students who struggled with similar topics. Slowly, James became a leader in his own right, guiding his classmates with patience and clarity. And that, my students, is exactly what I want for you. I want you to realize that intelligence is not a trait you are born with. It is a skill you develop. It is built with consistent effort, deliberate practice, and a mindset focused on understanding. When you embrace methods like the Feynman Technique, you do more than just learn a topic. You transform the way you think, the way you study, and the way you believe in yourself. Just like James, you too can move from doubt to confidence, from confusion to clarity, and from struggle to mastery. Your transformation begins the moment you choose to understand, to simplify, and to grow. Chapter 9. Your New Learning Superpower. My dear students, now that you have learned the steps of the Feynman Technique, I want you to understand something very important. This technique is not just a method or a study tool. It is a superpower. Yes, a superpower. A skill that, when used consistently, can transform the way you learn, think, and grow. It gives you abilities that go far beyond memorizing facts or passing exams. It allows you to truly understand deeply, so that every lesson becomes meaningful and clear. When you use this superpower, the concepts that once seemed confusing suddenly make sense, and your mind begins to organize knowledge naturally, without force or frustration. This superpower helps you remember easily because understanding creates memory that is lasting and effortless. Unlike memorization, which fades over time, knowledge gained through understanding stays with you. Your brain learns to store ideas in a way that connects them with other knowledge, making recall fast and precise. It also allows you to speak confidently. When you understand something, your words flow naturally. You do not hesitate. You do not second-guess yourself. You can explain what you know clearly to others, whether it is a classmate, a teacher, or anyone seeking your help. The Feynman Technique also strengthens your ability to think clearly. By simplifying complex ideas and breaking them down, your mind learns to focus on what is essential. It reduces confusion, sharpens your logic, and improves problem-solving. You begin to study faster because your mind is focused, your gaps are identified early, and your effort is directed exactly where it matters. You learn smarter because you are not just repeating words. You are internalizing knowledge, questioning it, and applying it. Beyond academics, this superpower allows you to explain better, communicate better, and grow stronger as a thinker. You gain confidence, clarity, and control over your learning. Once you experience this, you will never want to go back to the old way of studying, the method that is heavy, stressful, and confusing. That method leaves you tired and unsure. In contrast, the Feynman Technique is clear, light, and simple. It makes learning enjoyable because you can see your progress, It makes learning peaceful because confusion is replaced with clarity. And it makes learning exciting because every lesson becomes an adventure of discovery. Most importantly, this method makes learning yours. It empowers you to take control of your knowledge, your understanding, and your growth. No one can take it away from you. It is your skill, your superpower, and your key to becoming a confident, intelligent, and capable student. Once you embrace it, you will carry this superpower with you for life. Chapter 10. You are capable, you are smart, you are enough. My dear students, before we conclude, there is something I want you to remember deeply. You are capable. You are smart. You are enough. So often, students feel the weight of self-doubt. They believe they are slow learners, that they cannot keep up, that they are not as talented as others. They compare themselves with classmates, with friends, or with people they see online, and slowly, a voice inside begins to whisper, "You are not good enough." But I want you to silence that voice today, because it is wrong. You are not weak. You are not slow. You are not behind. The only thing that has ever held you back is the lack of the right method, the right guidance, and the right mindset. Once you have those, nothing can stop you. Your brain is powerful, more powerful than you realize. Your mind is talented, capable of learning, understanding, and creating far beyond what you imagine. Your potential is enormous, limitless, and waiting for you to unlock it. Every time you try to learn something, every time you face a challenge, every time you feel stuck, remember that you have this power within you. And today, by learning the Feynman Technique, you have taken a step closer to unlocking that potential. You are not at the beginning of the journey. You are on the path to mastery, and every step you take brings you closer to understanding, clarity, and confidence. The Feynman Technique is not just a study tool, it is a door. Behind that door lies clarity, understanding, and the ability to learn anything you choose. But a door can only be opened by someone willing to turn the key. And the key, my students, is understanding. Not memorization, not rote repetition, not trying to look smart. Understanding. When you truly understand a concept, when you can explain it simply, when you can recognize gaps and fill them, that is when the door opens. And the most important truth is this: you are the one who holds the key. No one else can do it for you. The teacher can guide you, the books can show you, but the action, the effort, the thinking, the practice comes from you. So today, take pride in yourself. Take courage in knowing that you are capable of mastering anything you set your mind to. Take strength from the fact that with the right method, guidance, and mindset, you can transform confusion into clarity, struggle into growth, and doubt into confidence. The Feynman Technique is your tool. Understanding is your power. And you are the one who will walk through that door, step into your potential, and become the learner, thinker, and achiever you were always meant to be. Final words from your teacher. My dear students, before we end, I want you to remember this forever. Learning is not about looking smart. Learning is about becoming smart. It is not about memorizing words, showing off knowledge, or comparing yourself with others. True learning is about understanding deeply, thinking clearly, and growing every single day. That is the essence of the Feynman Technique, and that is why it is so powerful. When you use this method consistently, you are not just studying, you are transforming the way your mind works. You are building skills that will stay with you for life. I want you to take a moment and think about how far you have come. The journey is just beginning, but already you have taken steps that most students never take. You have learned to choose with clarity. You have learned to explain like a child, to find your gaps, and to fix them. You have learned to simplify again and shine again. And as you continue practicing, your mind will grow sharper, your confidence will rise, and your understanding will become deeper than ever. Remember, my students, this is why I created English Achieve Students Hub, to guide you, support you, and help you unlock your potential every single day. Here, we do not just learn, we understand. We do not just study, we master. And we do not just follow, we grow into champions. So use the Feynman Technique. Practice it daily. Enjoy every step. Explain like a child. Understand like a master. Grow like a champion. Your journey has only just begun, but I want you to feel proud of the student you are becoming. And always know this: I am proud, truly proud, of every effort, every thought, and every step you take toward becoming the best version of yourself. The path is yours to walk, and the power to succeed is already within you.